Okay, well, thanks everybody for being here. We appreciate you all joining us today to celebrate more than $24 million in federal funds for transformational transportation projects awarded to the city in Louisville in 2022. That is a big year. And I see a lot of folks here from our local team, the state team, the federal team, so I just want to give an omnibus thank you to everybody for all the work that's gone into doing this work over many, many years. Well, this year, Congressman, is the year where all the money came, was planning over the last 8 years or so that really led to this happening today. So it's something very exciting for us. It was last Friday, just 5 days ago, when Congress and our very own Congressman Yarmuth, U.S. House of Representatives Budget Chair, passed the omnibus bill that, among many things, allocated $3 million to the City of Louisville's reimagined 9th Street project and $600,000 for a project to widen and improve pedestrian safety along Butchell Bank Road. And there's more, and you'll hear from the Congressman about that. But I really want to thank Congressman Yarmuth for being such a critical force to make these announcements possible here today. The Congressman has been an amazing partner to work with as we've gone on our kind of farewell tour of the city here this last quarter or so. This is probably our last official one as Congressman and Mayor, but we'll have many more as friends after that, I'm sure. Now, these funds are in addition to 2 raised grants from the U.S. Department of Transportation that were announced in August. Louisville Metro government received a total of $20.5 million from the raised grants to move forward with reimagined 9th Street and Broadway all-the-way projects that will transform core roadways in our city's transportation system. So there's 2 different projects there. So dream with me a moment about this goal. The reimagined 9th Street grant will break down what's long been called this divide along 9th Street between downtown and the west end of Louisville, the Russell neighborhood, and beyond by creating what's a broad boulevard there that's too big and too difficult to cross, and turn that into an inviting and inclusive roadway that focuses on pedestrians, bus riders, cyclists, cars, and other amenities. So it's going to be a massive transformation, not just of a physical space, but symbolically what it means in terms of unifying our city. This plan will transform 9th Street from a 6-lane thoroughfare into a welcoming, what we call complete street, with a linear park, protected bicycle facilities, dedicated bus lanes, green infrastructure, traffic calming measures, and smart signals. So with all the development in the western portion of downtown now, so when you think about western portion, I'm calling it, say, 4th Street West or so, from the Dream Hotel that we announced yesterday to the Environmental Institute to the new Louisville Gardens, this grant could not come at a more opportune time, because downtown has been developing kind of the east. When you think about New Lou and East Market or East Main coming into the Central Business District, and now these announcements I mentioned, the Dream Hotel, Environmental, Louisville Gardens toward the west, 9th Street divide. So you see downtown developing in a full way and then reaching into Russell, and Russell reaching into neighborhood in a way that really brings everything together in a nice unified thread. The raised grant and the omnibus funding will allow us to finalize the reimagined 9th Street design, coordinate utilities, and complete construction by 2027. So there's a lot of different stages to these projects, from planning to actual construction. So 9th Street is going to get done now. It's funded, and the construction is going to get underway. So we got to recognize that good things sometimes take a while. We applied for our first grant to begin the reimagining process roughly 8 years ago, and completed a plan with internationally renowned designers Gale Associates 4 years ago. And since then, we've been seeking funding to bring that plan to life. So we're excited to finally take that step in this process. I want to say kudos to our federal affairs team, led by Jen Covino with Simon & Associates, for helping to make all this come together. Jen's been kind of the traffic cop in D.C. for us to coordinate between us here at Louisville Metro Government, the Congressman's office. I want to recognize Julie Carr, Congressman's Chief of Staff here, and then, of course, the whole federal government apparatus, which is not easy to navigate through. So, Jen, hopefully you're listening. I want to say thank you to you and your team. Now, looking at Broadway, when you look at it just as a road, in today's world, it's an outdated, heavily concentrated, automobile-centric design that creates safety problems for people who travel on it each and every day, especially our pedestrians, to the point where 2nd and Broadway is one of Kentucky's most dangerous intersections, while TARC Route 23 boasts some of the highest ridership in the city. So starting back in 2019, Metro government partnered with local firm Gresham Smith to gather feedback from people traveling the corridor, drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, bus riders, bus drivers, as well as businesses and residents along Broadway about what they'd like to change. So the RAISE grant for Broadway All the Way will assist with funding additional planning and design work, everything we need before construction. So this is not the construction grant for Broadway, obviously that's going to be a big number, but this is going to tell us what we want to construct ultimately. So the Broadway All the Way project will build upon a unified vision that we've created through the Broadway Transit Study, and that vision includes premium transit, including bus rapid transit, as we did on Dixie Highway, and enhancing pedestrian and bus shelters, as well as bike facilities and improved sidewalks. A lot goes into these, as you can tell, so kudos to Mike King and the team. A better Broadway benefits every neighborhood it touches, and obviously Broadway touches a lot of neighborhoods from Shawnee through downtown, to Smoketown, the Highlands, terminates at Cave Hill, and serves as a major connector between the east and western parts of our city. And as it relates to broader transportation planning, Broadway and 9th Street were both identified in Move Louisville. That's our city's 20-year multimodal strategic plan. And the goal of Move Louisville is to fix and maintain our current infrastructure, reduce the number of miles that residents drive, and improve mobility options. So for people who are always saying, why all these plans? You know, we're going to need to do something. You got to have the plans to coordinate all this work so when we have the money to do something, it actually works in a unified way. So both reimagining 9th Street and Broadway All the Way will improve connectivity, mobility, safety, and aesthetics while promoting economic development and quality of place. These projects will complement unprecedented investments in West Louisville, $1.5 billion since 2014, including the redevelopment of Beecher Terrace, the Norton Healthcare Sports and Learning Center, and Goodwill and Norton's Opportunity Campus at 18th and Broadway. This is in addition to significant investments in downtown Smoketown and Paristown, such as the new U of L Hospital, the redevelopment of the Urban Government Center, Hotel Indigo, the Dream Hotel, LDG's affordable multi-unit housing on the old Brown Brothers Cadillac site, and more. So as you pay attention to what's going on in the city, you're seeing a real transformation in both the downtown, the edge neighborhoods, and then the main thoroughfares that feed into downtown. So to ensure the success of these investments, your city government has got to complement them with critical investments in infrastructure. And my administration, in partnership with the council, has committed more than $6 million to complement these two projects. I want to thank President Biden and the U.S. Department of Transportation and its Secretary Pete Buttigieg for these great awards, and Congress for allocating additional funds through the omnibus bill. I also want to give a shout out to Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of New Orleans, and the president's infrastructure czar. Just want to note that both Pete and Mitch, former mayors that I worked with, and it's good to see mayors in and around the White House. And of course, none of this would be possible without the tremendous support of Congressman John Yarmuth, who has chaired the House Budget Committee since 2019. Congressman Yarmuth recognizes that investing in modernized transportation systems and roadways fosters economic development, further sustainability, and makes communities healthier, safer, and stronger. The Congressman's love for this community is unparalleled. His love for the country and the work that he's done that has touched literally over 100 million people. He'll never know all these people, but he does this work in a selfless way, directed with the goal of helping others, and it's something that we're all very, very appreciative for. So please welcome our Congressman John Yarmuth.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Greg. This is, I think, the last stop on our farewell tour where we're both serving. And I will say right off the bat that it's been an incredible opportunity and joy for me, and honor to work with Greg for the last 12 years. He has been a remarkable partner, a great leader for this community. And, you know, the list of things that he just read is only a partial list of the incredible progress that this community's made over the last 12 years. And as a native, it's been a joy to watch. And to hear him talk about Broadway is very special to me because I kind of grew up on Broadway. My father sold used cars at 8th and Broadway, and I learned to drive on his car lot. I wasn't 16, but I learned to drive, and I spent many, many hours as a young boy there, and of course during my 16 years in office now, have ridden up and down Broadway more times than I can count, and to be cognizant of what's happening in West Louisville now, what has happened over the last 10, 12, 15 years is really exciting. And I don't know that anybody as mayor has been as committed to righting the wrong of the disinvestment in West Louisville historically than Greg Fischer has been, and it's something that I've been very committed to, and I think we have made a real difference. I remember when we were trying to push the Secretary of, was it HUD at the time? Yeah, to approve the Beecher Terrace project, and he was relentless. I was a pain in the ass, but he was relentless, and to get that project done and to realize how much investment that is going to spawn, and it has already spawned, is just another example of the progress that's been made in making West Louisville truly a part of the overall community. And the Reimagine 9th Street project is something that when I heard about it, I said, wow, what a phenomenal way to finally try to break down that barrier. And I remember Mitch McConnell say, I'll never campaign west of 9th Street. And to me, that was so symbolic of the divide that existed there, not just politically, but economically, socially, in so many ways. And to see this project come to fruition, to look at the extension of the waterfront park, which is also going to transcend that barrier, is just an amazing thing that this community needs to be proud of. I'm here, since I'm not running for anything anymore. I don't know if Greg is or not, but I know I'm not. But I'm here for just a couple reasons. One is to thank Greg for his leadership and Greg's team, because these things don't happen by accident. And secondly, to just call attention to the fact that federal government invests in some really important things in this community. And too often, I think the average citizen doesn't realize the amount of federal money that comes in to make their lives better in a lot of ways. And I can't think of any traffic problem that we have heard more about than Beals Branch Road in the last 16 years. The complaints, the safety hazard that it was, to be able to create another federal investment in that, in correcting that very, very dangerous street is very, very important. So I just want to say, once again, thanks to Greg and his team. And one other thing, by the way, these investments, the $3 million from Reimagine Broadway and the $600,000 for the road repair and widening, those are what we used to call earmarks. We now call them community projects. But this is where, and I just say this for, again, background, this is where members of Congress actually get to direct money to projects in their community. But I want to make sure everybody understands two things. One is this is not additional money we're spending. This is money that has already been appropriated, but instead of having it allocated by bureaucrats, basically, and through the grant process, we get to have a say through our representatives in how that money is spent and where it goes. So it doesn't cost the taxpayer an additional dime, but it's a direct way that we can make choices for our community. And I don't know why we ever ended them, but I'm glad that they're back in existence. And once again, these are our opportunities to respond to community needs and community input as well. So once again, to Greg, to his team, to everybody here from state, from everybody who's involved in imagining these projects and putting them together, thank you for your work. Look forward to, as a private citizen, reaping the benefits of all of these, and I'll watch with great interest as my successor and Greg carry on the work that we have done over the last 12 and 16 years. So thanks.
Thank you, Congressman. And when we're done here, if we could have our local and state teams come up and let's all take a picture with the Congressman. Again, thank you to everybody. I think, the average citizen has no idea what goes into making these projects happen, both from the design standpoint, the construction, the funding, the amount of time. And you all have just really are great, dedicated public servants that enjoy this kind of work. And thankfully you do, because it is really critical for the future of our city. And it's one thing like to fix a road or another thing. It's not that when we do this work, it makes a statement about our city's values too and what we're trying to bring the city together. Safe streets, unifying, correcting racial issues, et cetera. So it's never been a more exciting time for infrastructure. And maybe that means I've been mayor too long when I use exciting and infrastructure in the same sentence together. But I really believe it, and it's just really cool. And I really thank you all for just your dedication to all of this. We talked about the partners required, and now we've got the federal funds. Locally, we've allocated matching funds, but none of this would be coming together without our state partners as well. Because when the federal government's involved, if you have a priority locally, but if the state's not interested, it's really hard to get a project done. So we've had a great relationship with the Department of Transportation, the Transportation Cabinet. I want to thank Jim Gray, the Secretary of the Cabinet, former mayor of Lexington, where we worked together for 2 terms, and now he's an incredible public servant leading our Transportation Cabinet, so I want to thank him. And also, now I'd like to invite up Jason Sewella, Executive Director of the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet's Office of Project Development, to talk more about the state's role in this project. Jason?
Thank you, Mayor. And really excited to be here, not only with you, Mayor Fischer, but Congressman Yarmuth and also Carrie. So thank you for having us today from the Transportation Cabinet. Very much appreciate the partnership as well. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm proud to be representing the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and joining in this celebration. I bring greetings from both Governor Andy Beshear and Transportation Secretary Jim Gray, who apologizes and gives his regrets that he was unable to attend in person. Both of them recognize the importance of these projects that we're talking about here today, because the safety of all road users is our priority. We talked about the mayor talked about pedestrians, and so did the congressman. And when we talk about road users, all road users, so pedestrians, bicyclists, vehicle occupants, motorcyclists, truck drivers, everybody, safety of all road users. And as we know, our streets and highways historically have been designed around trucks and cars, as you mentioned in several of those project items. And so everything else, from buses to bicycles, not to mention pedestrians, have always had to find a way to fit in, and it hasn't always been a great fit. That has changed, and we are working to change that actively. There's a new awareness that transportation designers, planners have to be more holistic about their work, and that simply means that they must take into account the needs of all roadway users, not just motor vehicles, and build accordingly. When that happens, the result is complete streets. We talked, the mayor talked a little bit about complete streets. Streets that are thoughtfully designed, streets that elevate safety and connectivity of neighborhoods as priorities, not just the efficiency with which we can move cars and trucks from A to B, although complete streets can also be very efficient in doing that as well. This is our policy at the Transportation Cabinet. It is embodied in a policy that we released, in a manual we released earlier, Complete Streets, Roads, and Highways, which was an update of our bicycle and pedestrian policy, which was some years in the making, that was released just this year. We know the Transportation Cabinet, at the Transportation Cabinet, we know that humans are vulnerable. We know that humans make mistakes. I know I do. And they sometimes use poor judgment. So we also know that we have to be proactive about safety, because a death or a serious injury on any of our streets is unacceptable. These infrastructure projects, 9th Street, Broadway all the way, Also, the widening of Buchel Bank Road embody the Team Kentucky spirit, which is that by working together, we really can achieve more. The mayor mentioned partnerships and how important those are to getting projects like this done, and we'd like to thank you as well for the partnership of your administration. The Fischer administration and the Transportation Cabinet are proud to lend support for these projects, not only the support that we lent by committing a state match of $500,000 to each of those two RAISE grants, but also in the days, weeks, and months ahead as we work on planning these future projects and constructing them as well. We will be partners with the city. Each of these projects has safety and equity at its heart, and that's something we can all get behind. So let me wrap up by congratulating you, Mr. Mayor and Congressman Yarmuth. We really appreciate all that you've brought not only to Louisville, but to Kentucky and to the United States as a whole on your public service. And thank you both for the great working relationship that we have and that we'll continue to have going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And now last, I'd like to invite up Carrie Butler. She's the Executive Director of TARC. And under Carrie's leadership, TARC has worked to improve services to residents. They're going to be a big part of both of these projects, Broadway, obviously, and 9th Street. So, Carrie, please share some words with us.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm delighted to be here today to celebrate these huge wins for Louisville Metro and the 3rd Congressional District. I'm incredibly excited for TARC to be engaged and involved in the Broadway All the Way, Reimagine 9th Street, and the Buchel Bank Road widening and pedestrian improvement projects. Everyone at TARC is poised and ready to partner with Metro Louisville and the state to execute this important work. It has long been a dream of mine, and part of the reason why I do the work that I do, that I share with not just my colleagues at TARC, but also with many fellow community members to make our city even more livable, more connected, and more accessible. This funding helps get us closer to making that dream a reality. Broadway is undoubtedly the main artery of TARC's operations. I too have spent many years traveling up and down Broadway. I've worked on Broadway for many years and have spent a lot of time going up and down Broadway for a variety of reasons. Kids went to daycare right off Broadway. So more than half of our routes in our system have a stop along Broadway. Route 23 travels the entire length of Broadway and has been our most traveled route, one of our most well-used routes for many years. So the RAISE grant supporting the Broadway All the Way project will provide TARC passengers improved access to and from the bus, while also enhancing other mobility options, which are all part of what makes transit more successful, cycling and walking safely along the corridor. The Reimagine 9th Street project is equally exciting. TARC came into existence in the form that we know now in 1974, about the same time that some of the urban renewal was underway. And so we now understand today that the mistakes of the past can take decades to repair, and this gives us the opportunity to correct some of those errors of the past and enhance the existing assets along 9th Street, including the beautiful new Beecher Terrace community. The Buchel Bank Road project will be an opportunity to improve connectivity on another key corridor that Route 23 serves, and particularly those who ride to GE Appliance Park, which is an important corporate partner, and this will be a major improvement to help folks get to GE. We know at TARC, public transportation does not operate on its own. We need streets, we need sidewalks, shelters, bike lanes, lighting, and crosswalks. All of these factor into the efficiency, the safety, accessibility, and the convenience of public transportation and TARC. So these grants are a huge step forward for the city for multimodal transportation and to create that more livable community. So on behalf of everyone at TARC, I want to thank both Mayor Fischer and Congressman Yarmuth for not just for your role in securing the dollars, but also for your leadership and support over the 12 and 16 years respectively. Your efforts have benefited not just TARC, but many in the community, every corner of the community, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have worked with both of you, so thank you very much. Right. So.
All right, so we're wrapping this up, and again, these projects are really critical to changing the landscape of our city, getting people to move around, connecting east and west. They also contribute to our sustainability goals when you've got good flowing streets with good public transportation behind them and lights that work on the proper sequencing, et cetera. So really excited to announce these transformative projects here along with the congressman as we wind things down in our life of public service. But John, when they look out 5 or 10 years from now and they see these two old guys doddering along 9th Street, that'll be John and me having a bourbon and celebrating our city. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you showing up. And if we could have our picture up here, it'd be great. Thank you all.